The Healthcare Security Cast is sponsored by 3D Network Technology. www.3dnetworktechnology.com.
Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast, the podcast dedicated to healthcare security, safety, and emergency management. If you are involved with a healthcare security program or desire to be, this podcast is for you. Join the conversation as we discuss the issues that matter to healthcare security professionals while leveraging the expertise of healthcare security thought leaders and experts in personal development. And now, here's your host, Brine Hamilton.
Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast for Friday, March the 27th, 2020. I'm your host, Brine Hamilton. On today's show, we're joined by Mary Rose Hoja. Among other things, Mary Rose is a TED speaker and a LinkedIn expert and advisor. And today our discussion will focus on LinkedIn and how to best leverage your LinkedIn profile. The show is packed with useful information and some actionable tips as well. So let's get right into the content. All right, we're joined today by Mary Rose Hoja. Mary Rose, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure, Brine. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Now, let's start off by finding out a little bit about you. Now, one of the things that I found when I was doing some research, I found that you have a TED Talk. You've done a number of things. So, who's Mary Rose Hoja?
Well, that's a great question, Brine. So I have a PhD in biomedicine, and that's my background. And while I was doing my PhD, I really found that my true love is business, and especially business that is developed through relationship building and networking. And so I have kind of evolved into leveraging my medical background into becoming what I am today, which is, I would say, an expert and specialist in inbound marketing and digital marketing, and especially on the LinkedIn platform. And really what all of this is about, networking and so on, it's really about sales. So I'm an expert in closing sales. And what I really do now, more than anything else, is I am a strategic advisor to 8-figure B2B businesses. And I don't only work on my own anymore. Now I have a team behind me, and my team and I mentor and advise 8-figure B2B businesses so that they can build cost-effective sales pipelines. And that's part of the thing about coming from a conservative background means that a lot of people who are in a medical world or in the healthcare world or in a technical world, so communication and marketing isn't their forte. And a lot of them, when they want to get more leads in or build their presence, they will build a website, and they'll take in a marketing agency and who will tell them they need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to do that. And I simply don't see that you have to do that always. So I'm really about leveraging free tools or almost free tools or available platforms like the LinkedIn platform to really build cost-effective pipelines for your sales or for your career development.
Excellent. Now, you covered a few things in there. You talked about your experience being an advisor, just the free tools, LinkedIn, for example, which is going to be kind of the focus of our talk. I wanted to highlight one thing. Now, you talk about being an advisor. So at one point, you were actually an advisor for LinkedIn. Is that correct? And is that still the case?
That is still the case. So LinkedIn has been around for years and years now, and I've been with it since the very beginning. And I have been an advisor for LinkedIn Nordics for many, many years now. And I do a lot of work together with them and together with their partners.
You make a few recommendations for people just getting started on LinkedIn, and you talk about some of the impactful changes that you can make to really maximize your profile. The first thing you recommend is changing a headline and having a more effective one. How do we construct an effective headline?
That's an awesome question, Brian. So the headline is something that a lot of people don't really spend that much energy on. And the thing is that if you're only going to change one thing on your LinkedIn profile, make it be your headline, because it's what everyone sees. And for me personally, it's the first thing I look at when visiting someone's profile. And in terms of how to make it more impactful and effective, I would really look at including keywords because that's what people will search for when they're looking for what you do. So keywords, you can put your email address in there, because LinkedIn, a lot of people don't even look further than your LinkedIn profile. They're just looking to contact you. And the thing is, you can leverage the fact that LinkedIn and Google have a ranking system going on. And so if somebody meets you at a networking event, for example, and they want to send you an email, but they don't have your email address, they will, if you have a LinkedIn profile, that will come up really high when people start Google you. And if you have your email address in your headline, then people don't even have to go further than that. But it's a really great way for people to contact you, because that's really what you want. So include keywords in your headline, your email address, your last great feature, for example, if you've been interviewed, if you've won an award, if you've just been part of a great product launch. If you've been interviewed, if you've just written an article or produced a book, or if you've given a speech, all these things are excellent to put in your LinkedIn profile. And a great thing is, it's kind of like changing up. You can easily change the impact of your LinkedIn profile and keep it fresh by just changing one or two words in your headline with that, and you don't have to touch the rest of your profile at all. So those are some ideas. Or you can also make your headline into a sentence. And in that sentence, you can put part or all of the following 4 things. The first thing is who you are. And that's really a first thing, because people have to call you something. So even if you don't want to pigeonhole yourself, you do have to in this context, because it makes you much easier to find in the search. Because if you imagine this conversation over coffee, we have no leads coming in and our competitors are really stealing our ground. Oh, and the other person said, well, you have to call Mary Rose Hoja. And if they haven't heard of me, then they would say, well, who's she? Well, she's an excellent inbound marketing specialist. And that's what I have on my headline. And so that's what people have to be able to call you something easily. And so you tell them what you want to be called in your LinkedIn headline.
All right. And I know within those headlines as well, there's a character limit. There used to be a hack, which I think LinkedIn has taken away now. I found this out last night, but if you use the mobile app, there wasn't really a limit. You could type a lot more, but it's, offhand, is that 140 characters? Am I correct?
Oh, no, that's a great question. It changes all the time. It was 80, it was 120. It was 120 last time I looked.
Okay.
But I will say one thing, that LinkedIn, and they're about to roll out new features. They roll out new features all the time. And so you can't, even though the character limit is one thing, if you cut and paste from a text editor document, you can actually get more in, and you do it through the app. So it depends. It's kind of a case by case basis, and a daily basis it changes. So the character limit is changes on a daily basis almost, and how you actually insert the information. So it's there's no quick answer there.
The next recommendation that you make is to make use of the summary option. What are some of the strategies to write an effective summary?
Okay, so that's a really great question, because after the headline, the second thing to change on your LinkedIn profile is your summary. And then in LinkedIn, it's called About. Now, either in your headline or in your summary, you should have one of these 4 things that we talked about for who you are, who you help, how you help them, and proof of what you say. So that's like feature pieces and articles. And the thing that you can add in the summary, first of all, is that you have a lot more space. And so on top of your just expanding a bit on what you say on the headline, you can also add in your specialties, because that helps with search. And also, a lot of people, even if they don't want to read a block of text, they will read just the keywords, and that's what they will remember. And so you can put in your specialties, and also how you can be contacted, because LinkedIn likes to hide your contact info. So so in your summary, put these 4 things: who you are, who you help, how you help them, proof, and your specialties, and how to contact you.
Okay, and then the last point that you kind of highlighted was posting. So just as professionals, what types of things should we be posting, and how often should we really be using the platform to post content?
So like you say, Brian, the third thing to look at really is how to post, and the content you create, how frequently you post that, and when to post it. So the timing, these are all key pieces here. And there is no magic bullet answer here, because one thing is how many people who are the people who you're wanting to target and contact and influence. Are they on LinkedIn all the time? And also what is your level of ambition here? Because this has to, for me, it's very, sustainability is everything. So really how you tackle this depends on the kind of people you're wanting to influence, because so the number one thing I would say here is consistency on an ongoing basis is your number one director here. Because the worst thing to do is to have a flurry of posting, and we see a mistake a lot of people make when they're looking for a job or they're looking for a sale, and they have had zero LinkedIn activity, and all of a sudden they'll have a flurry of posting when they want something. Then First of all, it makes you look desperate, and secondly, it means that you'll get people looking, and they'll see this flurry of activity, and then you can have a long period of nothing. So we use a process for consistent viability and presence, and that's the number one thing: consistency. So ideally, in an ideal world, we would say every day. So once a day, post something, but that isn't really realistic for most people. So what we do and recommend is to use a scheduler. So you can use a digital tool, and there are free ones around that can post things for you. But as a bare minimum, in terms of posting content that you've created, I would say a minimum of once a week to show up, because that means that it means that you are there. People will see that there's something there. And even if they're not looking at you for a while, but then they see your name pop up, or they meet you at a networking event, or you're introduced to someone and they look at your profile, they have something to scroll back on, and they can see, well, it was a week ago or it was 2 weeks ago. So you don't, so I would say a minimum of once a week as a minimum, preferably once a day. But again, what I will say, you don't always have to create we maybe talk about that a little bit later, but we don't always have to create your own content. You can also, a lot of this is really just showing up. So you can share other people's content. So you don't have to always think, what am I going to post today? You don't have to do that. You can just share someone else. Even if you just like someone else's stuff, that will show up as something fresh in your feed.
Okay, now actually, while we're on the topic of posting, how can posts and shares be more impactful for larger audiences? So if we're using tagging or hashtags, how would that impact things?
So that is a great question, because tagging and hashtags are hugely impactful. And it's something that a lot of people just don't use because they don't dare to, or they don't understand how it works. But the thing is that tags really make people notice, because if you don't tag, what that means is that you will only have people who are already looking at your feed, who will see your content. What tagging does means that it makes people who are looking at groups or at other people's content who are involved in things that you're interested in. So, for example, hashtag healthcare security or hashtag leadership. People who are part of groups that are focus groups and interest groups who are using those hashtags. That if you use those kinds of hashtags in your own posts, that will show up much more in other people's feeds. So it just makes your reach much bigger, and it means you have more eyeballs and you really get that early traction, which is what LinkedIn is excellent for. So tagging is a fantastic way to leverage other people's audience and other people's activity. So, and I'd also say a key piece here is also that this really leverages how the LinkedIn algorithm works, because it will show your posts to more people as increasing numbers of people look. And that really happens through tagging. It's so the LinkedIn algorithm really uses tagging and hashtags to give more weight to personal connections, and using tagging and hashtags is a great way to push that.
Right now, one of the things you alluded to earlier was just some of the free tools that are out there, and you mentioned some of the digital scheduling tools for posting content. Would you mind talking about those a little bit, like what's out there and what we could actually leverage for those purposes?
Absolutely. So again, in terms of free tools, there are tools like Hootsuite, TweetDeck, if you want to, there's a fantastic tool called Social Pilot, which is free or a lot of these tools are free or almost free. And even the ones that they might have a paid package, they'll have a free trial. So, and you can get you can just do a little tester for a couple of weeks and see if you like it or not. So these are tools that you can have. They have apps available, and another one is called Buffer, and that's a really fantastic tool as well. And so what these tools do is, it literally means you get a little, it's called a dashboard that you can put up on your screen, and you can just basically stick a sentence in there and just say, I want this to come out on Tuesday, and then it'll schedule it for you, and then just hook up your LinkedIn account and any other social media accounts that you have, and you can do this literally for it'll take you 45 minutes once a month if you want to do that. And then then it's done. And that means you have a visibility that is consistent, and you have control of it, and you're doing it when you're calm. And it means that you can go away on holiday, or if you're sick, or if you don't feel like it, you're busy. That means that you are still kind of showing up in that digital world. Especially now, and I would say that especially now with digital channels and social channels are going to be increasingly important for doing business, and with a lot of people working remote, and for decrease in travel right now. So really having that visibility and showing up online is a really important thing for you to be doing, and using free schedulers like Hootsuite or TweetDeck or Social Pilot are a really good idea.
Okay, and another question that a lot of people have is just around the profile picture. Now, would it be detrimental not to have a profile picture? And what do you think? What are some of what do you see as best practices for choosing a profile picture for LinkedIn?
Well, that's a great question, actually. And I would say in this world, in the healthcare world and life science world, Brine, there are a lot of people don't really use LinkedIn very much, and and also a lot of people are shy. They don't want to be exposed in that way, and they don't think it's important. First of all, I'll say that the LinkedIn algorithm works that you will be penalized if you don't have a photo. If people are looking for searching for your type of role and you don't have a photo, you will be ranked down compared to someone who does have a photo. So that's just from the search and the algorithm perspective. From the other perspective, actually, people searching for your LinkedIn profile, people will stop and look much more if you have a profile photo. So so I would always advise you to have a photo. And as far as what kind of photo that should be, gone are the days of having a professional headshot as a must. You don't have to do that anymore. You can have excellent photo opportunities, because this is prime real estate. Your photo is what people will look at immediately. A lot of people use the LinkedIn app to look at you, first of all, and your face is what people will see immediately, and they make a really snap judgment on you. And so this is your opportunity to control that. And so without even scrolling or clicking anything, they will see the place where your photo is. So you can have and how to decide what kind of photo to have. So I would say like this: it's depending entirely on who you want to impress. So if you think about it like this, who does your ideal client or your ideal employer want to see sitting across the table from them? So a tip here is to Google image your ideal client or your ideal employer and look and see who are they standing smiling beside, because these are people who they feel comfortable with. An extension of that is, who do they want to see you with and look like? So that is how I would judge that. If you're trying to impress people who themselves are very conservatively dressed, if they're wearing corporate suits and so on, then you might want to consider that having a more corporate kind of vibe in your photo, professional photo. That said, you can LinkedIn is quite a kind of staged platform, so it's an opportunity for you to put up a photo of you giving a talk. If you do a lot of microscopy work, then you can have a photo of you sitting at the microscope, because that's you in situ. So it gives you a context, and that's how people. So if you've been interviewed by a VIP or a celebrity inside your field, you can also put that up as your profile photo, or you could have it in your background, which is the image space behind your photo. So I would say, number one, have a photo. Number two, have a photo that will be comfortable for the person you're trying to impress. It's not about you, it's about them. It's what they would feel, what will give you an advantage, a competitive advantage compared to other people that have exactly the same qualifications as you. I would not be afraid to use kind of not a professional headshot. I would really encourage people to use a photo of them giving a talk, which would, if they want to give more talks, for example, or somewhere where they're giving they're in a exhibiting their authority or something that they know a lot about. That is something which is really fresh take on LinkedIn, and especially in the life science and healthcare and in the security worlds, because these are quite conservative worlds, and it's being bold and yet being serious and conveying authority without you having to say anything.
Okay, and one thing actually I wanted to touch on as well, uh, when we were having some earlier discussions, leading up to this discussion, one of the things that came up is that you've lived in 21 different countries, and I'm just curious, has that helped your ability to connect with people, and have you been able to translate any of those skills to these social media platforms?
Absolutely. So it's not 21 different countries, but 21 different places, but four continents. And so just the way my life has been, I've ended up traveling around a lot. And what that means is that I had to make friends fast and build connections really quickly. And that's in order to make friends, you need to have people to find out where are good places to go, and also to get a job and discover that I'm good at it. This really translated excellently into the LinkedIn world, and and that's what I do a lot. I help people in the healthcare, especially in the healthcare world, to make strategic connections, because a lot of people in this world are quite reticent about, and in the security world, are quite reticent about making the first move and making contact with people. So having moved around a lot and being able to build relationships fast with strategic people, it has been extremely advantageous, and it's a joy to show other people how to do that too, actually, and I think that having that ability and nurturing and developing that skill is only going to be more and more important over time. And LinkedIn is an awesome platform to do that, because a lot of people will search for you and want to find out about you a lot more before they even meet you. And so being able to use these platforms there are simple ways you can build relationships and make at least initial connections really fast and in a free way, in a way you just can't physically do it when you're mid-career and with domestic issues, the way life is. You just don't have the time to go around to networking events and so on. So it's so being able to cross cultures and fields using this platform is excellent.
Right now, and obviously you've done a lot of work with LinkedIn and just how to use the platform. You have a YouTube video that talks about the 5 keys to make the most of your LinkedIn presence. Do you want to go through those 5 points a little bit with us?
I'd love to. Okay, so the 5 keys are really about how establishing your presence. And the first key, I would say, it's about being social and actually taking the time to create connections, because the LinkedIn and a lot of these pages, they're not very human. And so being social really is about creating connection points, because it helps to humanize your profile. And especially if you're active with your, if you're involved in sales and marketing, you're involved in your company's online presence, that really helps to humanize the business pages as well, because, and their business presence, because a lot of companies just don't do that. So being social by sharing content from your own brand, from yourself, and also from your company's brand, and sharing your own posts and links and your company's posts and links are a really great idea. So being social is the first key. And the second key is consistency. And this is what this means is that you're showing up reliably and with content that you find interesting and that you think your people would find invaluable. And what this does is it builds trust. It makes you seem reliable. And again, having a regular posting schedule is really important here, because it makes people, if you don't do that, if you have a flurry of posting followed by times of silence, it makes potential clients or potential employers or people who are you wanting to get in, to build a relationship with, less confident in you and in your business as a whole. So consistency is the second key. The third key is what we call the 3 E's. And that is that when you're looking at preparing content to share on your LinkedIn profile, really be thinking about why you're doing this and who you're doing it for. And so look at things that will educate, engage, or entertain them, because the main goal here is to help your audience along their journey to either to sale or to employment, or to book you for a podcast or an article. And so that's really important to do, and also to mix it around a little bit, to vary it so people don't get fatigued and bored, to keep their interest. And the fourth key is really about visuals, because a lot of people, and especially in our world, Brine, a lot don't use visuals. It's very text based, and people are almost kind of. I'll just say it, they're afraid to. It's because they're not used to doing it, and they don't dare to. But the thing is that content with visuals gets 94% more views than content without. So I'd really recommend that people make their posts more interesting by incorporating images and charts, infographics, of course, video, because the video content is a really great way to create a human connection with you and with your brand. And it's something that your people really want to see, because it gives them, it makes them feel like they're part of your life in a way that you just can't convey through a black and white text piece. So using visuals could be like tiny interviews, little customer testimonials. If you're addressing FAQs, at questions you get asked all the time. So if you feel like it, posting even a short 1 to 2 minute video would create a connection point with your followers. It doesn't, and this is nothing about being polished. You don't want that. You just want to have that visual piece. And one thing I would add there is about the visuals. If you do use video, do add subtitles. And there are tools available to do that, because a lot of people have the sound off in their offices, or if they're in a public place, they can't hear it. So, but they will read your subtitles. And the fifth key then is strategically using hashtags, like we've talked about. And you really want to have a rotation of hashtags. So I'd create just spend a few minutes, and this should go fast. It's just about a little list of a few hashtags that would be appropriate to your business and to to your kind of secret sauce, what people ask you for help with on a regular basis. So you can use hashtags that are industry specific, location specific, or that are connected to the content that you're sharing. And rule of thumb is 2 to 3 hashtags per post as standard. So those are the 5 keys that I would that would help you make the most of your LinkedIn presence. Be social. Consistency is key. Remember the 3 E's: educate, engage, or entertain. Use visuals, and strategically use hashtags.
Okay, and when we're talking about using visuals, one of the things that you mentioned obviously was video. What would be your recommendation for video? Because I know there's a lot of different platforms that we could use. People are using YouTube, for example. Would it make sense to link a video in your description, or should you just be uploading it directly to the platform?
So that's an awesome question. And this, I will say right now, this is really about the LinkedIn algorithm. So LinkedIn, if we're talking about LinkedIn, will really demote links. So if you have if you're doing an external link, so on LinkedIn, I would post your video straight to the LinkedIn platform. Don't link to a YouTube video necessarily. Link as rule of thumb with, so we'll go through the different ways to do this. So YouTube, Instagram. So I would post directly to the Facebook. I would post straight to the different platforms because their algorithms make it. They penalize you for not doing that because they don't want to send you outside of their space to a different platform. That, and also people, if you have the thumbnail that will come up is much more obviously a film and moment people want to click much more. Whereas if you just have a link, that's just a link. And so you'd have to have a different thumbnail. So it just gives people an extra thing to do. So I would recommend embedding your film straight into LinkedIn. If for more people who are more sophisticated and are wanting to be doing using ads and so on, you can post films on Facebook, for example, on a Facebook page, and then get people to. You can have a rotation where you have some films posted directly on LinkedIn, but you also have some films that are posted on Facebook, for example, and you just put a link in LinkedIn, and you get people to go to Facebook, because what you do then is you can do is, again, you can basically stick a tracker on them and you can serve them ads later, but that's a different discussion. But for our purposes here today, I would post directly on the LinkedIn platform.
Excellent. And the thing that's come up over and over again in this discussion is the LinkedIn algorithms. Now, for someone who's new to LinkedIn, this might be a little bit over their head, or they might just be kind of thinking, okay, what exactly are these algorithms all about? Do you want to give us an idea of how the algorithms work and how we can leverage those?
I'd love to. Okay, so the LinkedIn algorithm it's really fascinating. And LinkedIn, the way LinkedIn works is literally changing several times a day. So when you come in, there are a lot of new things coming up soon. So, but the basic thing, what the LinkedIn algorithm is for, it aims to give personal connections more weight. And the way it does that is to prioritize relevant content. And the second way it does it is to promote engagement. So it will really reward you for posting stuff that's relevant to your audience. And it will also reward you for encouraging people to like, share, and comment on what you post, because it's really it's wanting to make sure it's relevant to its own audience, and also to make sure that you're not spamming people, because LinkedIn's had a lot of problems with people spamming others, and it really doesn't want to avoid that. Part of why LinkedIn is so successful over time, because LinkedIn's been around for years and years and years now, almost 20 years, and it's grown very, very steadily. And part of why it has such consistent and kind of slower, it's not as sexy a platform as some of the other ones and so, but it's really it's very the LinkedIn algorithm and the way LinkedIn is forming itself is really to make sure that only people who are genuinely interested in developing business and have good stuff to post, which is valuable and either will educate or entertain in a professional way, or somehow help people in a professional capacity. The algorithm is really built towards that. So the way it's really looking at number one, personal connections, interest, relevance, and the third thing is engagement probability. So it will show people content based on it'll prefer to show content to people who you know already. That's the first thing. So that's why it's really important that you are build in. We might go into that a little bit. That's really important to build your LinkedIn network, because that means that more LinkedIn will show your content to more people. So because a problem that people had before with LinkedIn was, for example, that Richard Branson would post something and then loads of people he'd take loads of that airspace because he's so famous. But what it meant that a lot of people who are like, what he posts maybe isn't relevant for a lot of people. It's not truly helpful on a day-to-day basis. They just didn't have that airspace capability. And so the LinkedIn algorithm is really made to level the playing field there. So it's very cleverly done. So it really prefers people, it will prioritize personal connections that you have. So people who you know, it will prioritize content that you post that is relevant to your audience. And that's why hashtags are so important, because it puts your things in a context. Because if you're just posting random memes or you don't have a kind of structure and a context to what you're doing, then it makes you less relevant to your audience. That's why that's why scheduling and planning your content can be really give you a real advantage over people who just post willy-nilly and don't really have a plan about how they're doing it. And the third thing was an engagement probability. So LinkedIn really so asking questions, engaging. If you're tagging people, it encourages them to like or share. So to do something, because otherwise you're just basically giving a monologue and nobody is responding to it within the LinkedIn world. So that's how that's how the LinkedIn algorithm works. It's really it's there to give personal connections more weight.
All right, and one of the things that you mentioned actually there again was, and this has come up a couple of times as well, is the is scheduling your post. So is there, I guess, is there a time that's more advantageous to post versus other times? And I guess that kind of changes depending on the size of your audience. If you have a more global audience, you'd have different time zones. But what's kind of the typical rule of thumb for posting and leveraging the best times?
That's a great question. So again, if you're global, it depends on where they are. I'll give you a little stat here, Brian. Rule of thumb: the best time to make sales calls statistically are Tuesdays at 2:00. So people are really receptive to sales calls at 2:00. So having content that's people are really in their work week then. I will say it all depends on your people. What we find, because we look at the stats on this all the time, are that Sunday nights are a really great time to post because people are preparing for their week ahead, and actually first very early morning. So Sunday night, say around 8:00. And early Monday morning and early mornings in general are good to post. But again, it depends on. We do tests on this, so I would test this to see when are people responding to you. When are people liking? How fast do they like after you post something? Because then you know that people are looking. If you're finding that you post something and then you don't get any response whatsoever, either public, like a like or a comment or a share, or that they send a personal message. If you don't get a response until the next morning, then you know that maybe that wasn't an optimum time for people. They're not very active at that point. So I would say, in my experience right now, late Sunday night is a great time to post, and a lot of people don't want to be sitting posting then. So which is why Scheduler is awesome. Early morning and early mornings during the week. High times are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's when people are really active. So as far as times are concerned, I would early morning and later on at night are pretty good for scheduling posting. Otherwise, around 2:00 can be good. It can be a good time because people are they just finished their lunch, so So, but again, there is no one size fits all answer to this. You need to test it for your audience.
All right. Now, another question that I had is just around associations. So, a lot of people who are listening to this podcast right now are members of IHSS, which is it's the International Association for Healthcare Security and Safety, and it's obviously a group that's focused on specifically healthcare security. Now, for us as members who want to get the word out there about the association, how can we leverage the LinkedIn platform to do that?
Well, that's a great question. So, but just so I understand, are you wanting to broadcast, help the IHSS promote itself, or are you wanting to reach people within the IHSS?
Really more about promoting the association.
Okay. So if the association has a LinkedIn page, then first of all, follow that page. And what I would do is, this is how I would do things. I would, if you're depending on and again, this is about level of ambition. If you're actively involved in that on your own LinkedIn profile, before I do anything else, on your own LinkedIn profile, I would follow the LinkedIn, the IHSS. If there's a group that they have, put that there. I would, into your summary, I might put that up. If post an article that you really think people would be interested in. So a couple of posts, some kind of and use the name, the IHSS, use the association name inside your profile somewhere. So that's the first thing I would do. So it's kind of like and only to a good enough level that people have something to look back at. So I put a couple of pieces of content on your own profile that are about the IHSS on your profile. And the second thing I would do is to follow the IHSS company page, or if they have a LinkedIn group or any other groups that they have, to follow that and to like, share, and comment, get involved on that page. LinkedIn groups and pages are notoriously quiet nowadays. LinkedIn groups used to be much, much more active. They're changing that. They changed it a while ago, and they're going to be changing it again. But you can really get within the LinkedIn platform. I would still start to show leadership in liking, sharing things from IHSS onto your own profile, and show leadership in liking and commenting on the LinkedIn company page or the LinkedIn association page, because a lot of people won't do anything until somebody else does. So what you're doing is giving them permission on how to behave. So start doing that yourself. If you have other people inside the association who are also interested and are wanting to promote this, then between the two of you, have little discussions between the two of you, and people will start to watch the two of you, or get 2, 3, 5 people involved in this. And then what it does is it creates a mini community and means that something's happening. So that's within a LinkedIn platform. Another great way to promote an association is outside of LinkedIn. If you have trade associations, if there are Facebook groups, if there are other closed groups where the association's members are, then and I have we have in one of our online programs on LinkedIn, we have tutorials on how to do this, that you have to post inside these groups that, if someone has a question, a challenge that's come up that the association could help with, or that this would be a great topic for a talk or an event downstream, or something that would be relevant to people, then you can put a little post in that group saying, well, here are some ideas that you might not have thought of, and you just give the link to the post that's in the LinkedIn group. And that is a really great way to drive people to the LinkedIn platform for the association, for people it's a way of getting eyeballs and early traction for people who just wouldn't access it otherwise.
All right. And actually, another thing that you touched on there within that was just the groups and how LinkedIn groups are changing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
So LinkedIn groups used to be, at the risk of getting in trouble here, LinkedIn groups used to be awesome. So the free LinkedIn profile, with your free LinkedIn profile, you can join 50 LinkedIn groups. And the way they used to be with that, they were really active, and they've changed the interface. So a lot of people are just not using them now, and in the same way. That said, they can still, it's still a great way to see who is interested in this. So even if the group itself is not active, it's a really great place to see who is interested in this, and you can just send connection requests to them and start to engage with them there. And even if not many people are talking, some people are um, looking. But LinkedIn groups are not super active, and especially not in the healthcare world. But that said, you can have some really tight niche groups that can be very active, and but it's getting a group to be very active, getting people to talk freely is can be very difficult. So it has to be curated by someone who's really interested and is willing to put the energy into building and driving that. So it can be a fantastic platform, but it's rare, and it's not super easy to do. So LinkedIn groups. So that's what I have to say about LinkedIn groups. It's great. I think it's a fantastic place to find people who share the same interest.
Okay, and another thing that you had touched on was sending out connection requests and just building your LinkedIn network. What is some advice that you could offer just with regards to building your LinkedIn network?
So everyone has a different take on building your LinkedIn network. Several people will not accept a connection request from someone who they have not physically shaken hands with, physically met, and feel like a lot of people don't. And LinkedIn by default and historically only wants you to accept connection requests from and connect with people who you already met, or you have a physical you already have a previous connection with. That said, so that's one school of thought, that you only accept connections, send connection requests to people you already have a connection, you already know. The other camp, which I'm in, is I don't have time for that. So I would, that's the way I used to do it. But I've moved on to doing it in much more widespreading net way, and do what's called open networking. And so, because you don't know who's going to be active on LinkedIn, and a lot of people. So I like the notion of you have a very kind of sluice system, which is you spread your net out wide and you send connection requests, and you don't and some people will be interested and some people won't. But I make sure you have a good enough profile to look at, so people can see that you're relevant and maybe interesting before they even, and then you can decide to talk to them. So, or they want to talk to you. So that's really what inbound marketing is all about as well. It's just offering value and inviting engagement. So my rule of thumb, first of all, is to get up to 500 connections as quickly as possible. And then I cull. Now, the reason I get up to 500 connections is because if you have less than that, it really gives people the impression that you're not really on LinkedIn. And when people look at your LinkedIn profile, they'll just see 500 plus connections. And so if you have, that's the first thing I would really advise people to get up to 500 connections. And you can send connection requests really easily through the LinkedIn app. I prefer to do it through the app. I don't always send a personal note. So using LinkedIn groups, for example, if you use it in the LinkedIn app, if you find a group who looks interesting to you, you can often see the members of this group, and I know you're not supposed to do this, but this is what I do, and I recommend doing because of time. I just go connect, and you can do that. You have to be careful about doing that. You can't do it too much because it'll stop you from sending for a while. But and some people will look at your profile. Some people won't. but I found that to be a very effective way, again, to get eyeballs and early traction for people who might have who might be a great strategic contact, someone who you can help. I'm not always in this for like selling or whatever. I'm in this to help people and to be curious about people and to help, like I talked about in my TED talk. It's innovation and making things better within healthcare security, for example, is only possible through talking to people, because otherwise your pool of ideas will be really limited. And so and the fastest way to do that for me is just sending a lot of connection requests and then starting the dialogue. So send connection requests through the LinkedIn app because it's faster. Do connect with people who comment on your favorite feeds and people. So find your hashtags and groups and see who is commenting and connect with those people, because you know then that they are on LinkedIn, they are willing to talk. And because also the power in networking is the second and third degree connections. So the whole notion of you're only the 6 degrees of connections theory, you're only 5 steps away from getting it done. So people who you know already are your first degree connection. So Brine, you're my first degree connection. People who you know are my second degree connections, and people who they know are my third degree connections. And the power in networking is in the second and third degree connections. So I love the Henry Ford model. So you don't have to know how to do anything yourself, but you know somebody who does, and more importantly, you know someone who knows someone who does. And so that's where you really get this massive kind of viral spread of your network. So I believe it. So dig where you stand. So connect with people you already know. Make first degree connections, and also remember that the LinkedIn algorithm will work to show your content and show you off to people who you already have connected with, much more than people you haven't connected with. So I'd really encourage you to do that. And in terms of how to build your network, I believe in building quite a wide network, because you don't know you don't know what you'll need. So quite a wide network with deep pockets of specialization. So maybe within healthcare security, within security, and then with deep pockets within the sub specializations of healthcare security, because that is where you really can shine, and then you can really build almost like global dominance within a narrow vertical, because you can have ownership of a really narrow niche, and so have a wide network of LinkedIn connections, and you have deep pockets of specialization and authority, and that's what that and building that in a strategic way really makes you the go-to person for your specialization.
Do you have any specific advice for any sales professionals who are listening?
Absolutely. I mean, I built my business using the free LinkedIn platform, and that was about sales. It was about how I sold through it, or used it for sale to get people to sell to, so get my leads, start the conversation. LinkedIn is an awesome platform for sales professionals, especially for B2B sales. It's a fantastic place to get in front of a wide, relevant audience, and really get that early traction early on in your sales funnel. A lot of people who influence decision makers and board chairs and VIPs, and really the ones who are going to be making the decisions on your sales, signing off on your sales deals, even if they are not on LinkedIn. A lot of people come to me and they say, well, my people are not on LinkedIn. Maybe not, but the people who influence them are, because they are advancing their careers. So people even who are in lower downs, even if the decision maker, the higher ups are not on LinkedIn, people who influence them are, and that is often your early in. So use that fact.
Okay, now just with regards to yourself and your activity, what are you working on these days? Are there any publications, any programs, any speaking events, maybe another TED Talk? What's new and exciting for Mary Rose?
So this year is really exciting. So you can see my video casts every week on LinkedIn. And I'm a professional speaker, so I give a lot of talks to commercial teams inside companies who are looking at who they want better leads, and teams that, especially I'm giving a lot of talks this year for companies they've either just come out of a turnaround or that they are looking to take an investment, and they're really needing to pull their sales up and or increase their visibility because their competitors are taking their online space. So I'm giving a lot of talks to companies around the 8-figure range who need to give their commercial teams a boost. And this year I'm going to be doing a lot of podcasts and interviews. And later on this year, I'm going to be in some major business publications. So I'd really invite the people listening here to follow my LinkedIn feed to find out more about that. And because there are always things to learn from these, because I think it's really important to use these platforms to teach and to help other people get new ideas. We also have online step-by-step programs on LinkedIn, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Everything we've talked about today, it's people get very excited, and then when they get off the call or the podcast, they're like, okay, so what did she say? What do I do now? So and our most popular course, LinkedIn Quick Fix, goes through in a really step-by-step, easy way, literally hand holds you through, and you can basically steal scripts, and their tutorials on it are in that program. So that's our most popular program, LinkedIn Quick Fix, and that course has just exploded. So we're going to be doing a lot more with that this year.
Awesome. No, that's great. Now, for those of us, obviously, it'd be remiss to not mention this, but obviously we can connect with you on LinkedIn. But what are your preferred ways to be connected with, I guess, outside of that?
So, of course, on LinkedIn, my name is Mary Rose Hoja. I'm the only Mary Rose Hoja on the planet. So just type in that and type in Mary Rose Hoja on LinkedIn into Google, and you will come to my LinkedIn profile. I really invite you to connect with me. I respond to every message, and I really love to find out what everyone's doing and just what has resonated with you today, how I can help you, what you're struggling with. And you can also connect with me through my website, maryrosehoja.com. And there we have a whole bunch of free resources, articles, tips, free guides, how to really leverage LinkedIn, how to sell more using networking and social media, we really focus a lot on free stuff. So how you can, and a lot of scripts, you don't have to reinvent things. So, and I'd actually like to invite the people listening here to take a look at our online program, LinkedIn Quick Fix, because I think it would really help a lot of people in a fast way. And we have special bonuses, especially for the people listening here today. So go to maryrosehoja.com/LinkedIn for more info. And looking forward to connecting with you.
Much appreciated, Mary Rose. I thank you so much for your time today. And there was a lot of valuable information in this discussion.
My absolute pleasure, Brine. And I'm really looking forward to talking again soon.
And that concludes another episode of the Healthcare Security Cast. Join us again for the next episode when we have a new guest and a new topic. In the meantime, please engage with us on social media. We have a LinkedIn group, the Healthcare Security Cast community. We have a Facebook group. And I also invite you to connect with me directly on social media. My name again is Brine, Brine Hamilton. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Until next time, stay safe and take care.